You guys really think I wasn't going to do more Mike Burnfire content? No way. This is Campfire Stories, Monoxide, Woobie, and Laundry. Let's get into it.
Monoxide poisoning. It sucks. Don't get it.
Well, that's what you get for not having a carbon monoxide detector in your house, but it actually happened to you at work, didn't it?
Yes, it happened at work.
So having one in your house wouldn't have helped.
The HVAC guys had just been there and they had been working on it. One of the vents that was in there basically got stuck closed, so our boiler was blasting exhaust gases into the building. So at a certain point throughout the workday,
yeah, carbon monoxide is so dangerous, right? And one of the reasons that we put it in almost every house now, especially houses with like propane or natural gas heaters, is because carbon monoxide, it's tasteless, it's odorless, and your body actually won't even cue up that there is a problem that you're not breathing oxygen. You'll just start to suffer the effects of hypoxia. Of course, which he's going to talk about here in a second, right, is just things like dizziness or fatigue. And the danger, the real danger, is not when you're awake, because you can feel yourself having a sudden wave of fatigue and you know something is wrong. The danger is if it happens while you're sleeping, because obviously feeling fatigued while you're already asleep isn't going to do anything to your body. It's going to just put you into a deeper sleep, which is bad because, again, you're not breathing oxygen.
I started feeling kind of dizzy. And I was like, oh, this sucks. I wonder why I'm so dizzy. This is dumb. I just bumped into a door. I hate this. I mentioned that I felt dizzy to one of my coworkers, and he was like, yeah, I kind of have a headache. And he'd been trying to cut back on his drinking, so he jokingly said, oh, yeah, it's probably because I'm having withdrawals from drinking. And we were like, ha, 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 what a good joke.
I can't believe that's contagious. Ha ha ha. Why do we all have headaches?
Well, I didn't have a headache at the time. 20 minutes later, I was like, okay, now I have a headache. I want to throw up. I feel like garbage. I'm going to go stand outside. So I stood outside for like 10, 20 minutes. When I came back inside, I was like, wow, it smells like gas.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, man. I mean, that's really dangerous. And it's dangerous for a bunch of reasons, right? I mean, so even if you can survive long-term hypoxia or a time without oxygen, the danger is that it kills brain cells really, really quickly. That's actually almost the same thing that damages your brain during a stroke. Your brain is cut off from blood while the clot is in your veins and arteries, and what happens is those cells start to die because they can't get the oxygen. They start to die very, very quickly, and it's one of the reasons that they train almost every person to recognize the signs of a stroke, because if you can get to a hospital quickly, right, they have drugs, powerful drugs that are meant to just bust out clots, to literally blow out clots through your arteries, and they can restore oxygen to those hypoxic tissues, minimizing the damage, right? And it's so variable, right? There are some people who have very bad seeming strokes and can get to a hospital in time, get clot busting drugs, and get themselves and usually have some like supplemental oxygen, and they can actually recover almost fully or fully. And then there's people who are have lifelong disabilities as a result of strokes.
Gas in here. And the moment I thought, wow, it smells like gas in here, I couldn't smell it anymore.
You thought, okay, must have been a fluke.
I thought it was just in the stairway or something. Then my ears started ringing, and I started getting really nauseous, and I had a really dull, throbbing headache. I kind of thought maybe I was being poisoned by carbon monoxide, and so I told basically everybody else in the building, I'm like, I think we're getting carbon monoxide poisoning. We just stood outside, and then only went inside for like 10 minutes at a time, and then went back outside.
That's pretty funny. But good on him, not only for recognizing it, but for being like, I have to tell everyone else, even at some level of personal risk. That's actually a testament to character.
At this point, you already suspect that the building is filled with deadly gas.
Well, because we still had to close everything down. I can't just not lock all the doors and leave the registers in.
You can't if there's a health hazard there.
The doors still have to be locked and everything.
Oh,
anyway,
there's a fire in the building. It's
I mean, you can lock the doors from the outside, but I see what he means.
consuming us all. Well, I gotta go lock up the cash register. Hold on.
oh my god. At one point, I had to go downstairs. I came back upstairs, and I felt like I had just finished running a marathon. My legs were basically rubber.
because it's like running at elevation. And this is what is so dangerous about climbing like Mount Everest. Exact same thing. There's a couple of subtle differences because it's both low pressure air and low oxygen air, right? But this is actually one of the problems when you are climbing at very high distances or you're scuba diving at depth. Because let's say you have 1 cubic foot of air, right? I'm at like 300 feet of elevation here on the East Coast, right? So, this is 1 cubic foot of air at normal pressure. Now, let's say let's make it up a number, a trillion atoms of oxygen, right? So that trillion atoms of oxygen will sustain my body for, 5 minutes. I'm making these numbers up. But what happens if, one, you scoop out some of the oxygen or pushed out by carbon monoxide, so that instead there's only 0.5 trillion atoms of oxygen? Well, now your body can survive half as long on the same amount of air. The problem you get when you're at Everest, let's say, is that the air is less dense, right? So there's fewer atoms of every molecule, including oxygen, in 1 cubic foot of air. That means that you have to breathe a lot more. You get winded more easily, right? And it can be so dangerous at places like Everest, the so-called death zone, is that you can't respire. You can't inhale and exhale fast enough to get the oxygen your body needs to survive. You're only getting like 80% of the oxygen you need. And so you can climb either with oxygen tanks where you can get supplemental oxygen, right? Get a little extra molecules to plus everything up, or you can get up, touch the surface, and get back down to where the density of air is greater. Now, when you scuba dive, you have the exact opposite problem. When you dive compressed oxygen in a tank, right, no matter what, as you go deeper and deeper, the water pressure takes that cubic foot of oxygen, that trillion molecules, and packs it down very, very tightly. So that when you inhale one breath could contain, making these numbers up, 2 million molecules of oxygen. The equivalent of 2 cubic feet of air have just entered your lungs. Now, it's not a huge problem because everything is compressed, so it won't like blow out your lungs. But the risk is you can actually get so much concentrated gas that you can get oxygen toxicity, right? It'd be the equivalent of breathing in somehow like 130% pure oxygen, something that wouldn't even be possible at the surface, or the equivalent of it. Or the real danger is called nitrogen toxicity. And that's when you're breathing the equivalent of 130% nitrogen. So much nitrogen atoms that it starts to create confusion and disorientation. And for divers, especially, deep divers, that danger is so great because it clouds your thinking and it makes you panic more easily, you misjudge things, your sense of risk is really screwed up. So a diver who would never in a million years enter, say, a dangerous wreck might do it when they're at depth because of the nitrogen toxicity. And of course, I've had this happen, right? I was on a dive and I would literally dive down. And at the time, this was 15 years ago, dive computers weren't that user-friendly. And what would happen is I'd look at my dive computer and I would have to subtract 2 numbers to know how much bottom time I had left. And I would get down past, I don't know, it's like 100 feet or something, or 100 meters. And I would look and I'd be like, I couldn't do the math. I kept doing it wrong. I kept getting different answers every time. And it would be like 17 minus 6, right? And I would get every time. I was like, it's 9. No, it's I would add 23. No. And then I would surface 30 feet and the math would be clear as day. And I'm like, Paul, you have 7 minutes left. And I would go back down, can't do the math anymore. It was really bizarre. And my diving buddy was like, what are you doing?
I was trying to write down numbers. I had to write down the number 8 6 times before I got it right. The number 8!
Number 8.
This is great. He's having the same thing. He didn't even have to get his dive certification.
And then I drew a 9.
Tell me how the different ways you screwed up the 8. Did you forget parts of it?
It was like too narrow.
Did you make 3 loops accidentally instead of 2?
Yeah, stuff like that. Like just screwing it up. And when I wrote the number 9, I made the bottom of the line way too long. So it was like a 9 with 6 L's attached to it. So at the end of the day, I sat outside. I'm just gonna have to wait before I drive home.
All 4 of you felt nauseous?
I probably got the worst of it.
Okay, so you all walked outside.
You know, they could have opened windows and opened all the doors. And then just called the fire department.
And you went, that sure sucked. Felt like we were all being gassed. See you tomorrow.
Pretty much. So I sat outside for a while, breathed fresh air, got in my car, rolled all the windows down, drove home, got home, called my girlfriend, and I was like, I feel like crap. I'm just going to take a nap. And she went, no, you're going to the hospital. How did you get home? Did you drive? And I was like, yes. So she got very mad at me because I did not want to go to the hospital because we live in America. And then she gently reminded me that I have insurance through the VA.
Yes. Oh my God, guys. If you want to be mad, you always can get care at a VA. Now, if you have a combat injury, that care is free for treatment of your combat injury. But I, as someone who thankfully wasn't injured in combat, am like considered VA priority group like 6. My copays, if I were to stay a week in the hospital, would be $100. Which, for those of you not in the United States, that's the equivalent of me saying that I could stay in like a 5-star hotel for $100 a night. That's normally what people will pay. And they're no deductible. Literally, they just charge you that so you don't use the hospital as like alternative housing. Now, the VA has a lot of problems, but they've gotten a lot better. And again, in America, if someone offers you free-ass healthcare for life, you just smile and nod, right? You don't look that gift horse in the mouth. Because again, however bad the VA healthcare is, right? If you have something like this, like carbon monoxide poisoning, listen, every emergency room doctor has seen it, and they know exactly how to treat it. It's not rocket science. They'll be fine. You just go to a VA hospital. Except in an emergency, then it can get a little complicated. But the VA will back pay you. If you have to go to a hospital for an emergency, you just have to request a transfer to a VA hospital, like, right away.
And also, to use her words, I have a fucking credit card. I ended up going to ER. They put me on oxygen. I basically lay in a bed for 3 hours.
Did they know you had poisoning?
No, when I went to ER, I told them. They asked, what are you here for? And I said, I got poisoned.
You didn't know that. You suspected it, though.
I was 99% positive.
You were 99% positive you had been poisoned, but you went home and relaxed anyway?
Well, if you're away from the poison...
Pretty much what happens when you get carbon monoxide poisoning is they put you on oxygen. And that's it.
So you're like, I can get oxygen for free.
I can get oxygen for free by lying in my bed.
I'm sure the CO2 levels will go down by themselves.
No, that's carbon dioxide.
CO1 levels.
The CO level.
Yes.
CO1.
It's just CO.
Whatever.
Because it's carbon monoxide.
Yes. Nobody calls it Toy Story 1, but it's Toy Story 1. We get it.
Yeah. Okay, what were we talking about?
That's that carbon monoxide poisoning.
So when I went to the hospital, they put me on oxygen for 3 hours, and they did some blood tests, and they told me, okay,
congratulations, you're HIV positive.
They didn't tell me that.
They're keeping it a secret from you?
I don't think I'm HIV positive.
How many monkeys have you had sex with recently?
None!
Okay.
Ooh.
And that would be AIDS!
Okay, fun fact, guys. HIV, for those of you that don't know, HIV is the actual virus, human immunodeficiency virus. It's a virus that over time degrades your immune system to the point where it can't function. AIDS, or immune something syndrome, I don't know. AIDS is the term for end stage HIV. So you can have the virus, but it will manifest in its later stages as AIDS. And usually these are things that are so obscure that usually these are diseases and conditions that almost every human being's functioning immune system kills right away. So obscure cancers, right? Or extremely opportunistic infections, like you cut yourself cooking food and you get just a vicious infection that like nearly takes off your finger, right? Things that a normal immune system would be able to knock out pretty easily, right? And those sort of, that collection of conditions, AIDS-related pneumonias are big ones, right? That is considered AIDS. AIDS is the end stage of HIV. So they're not distinct diseases.
Well, HIV leads to AIDS.
That would be AIDS or Ebola.
Do you have Ebola? You know?
Am I sloughing my internal organs out of my rectum?
Maybe you're not showing symptoms yet.
They did a blood test. Doctor came back and they said, in a normal adult, carbon monoxide levels would be about 2 to 3%. Mm-hmm. Very, very low.
Not very many percents there.
No. Yours was at 14.
So 14% of your blood was poison.
As it turns out, the hemoglobin in your blood says, I'm going to take this carbon dioxide to the lungs. It thinks it's carbon dioxide.
But it's really poison.
And if you get enough carbon monoxide in your lungs, the hemoglobin can't tell the difference, so the hemoglobin just starts grabbing carbon monoxide and transporting it all over the body, which is why you start getting sore and tired and sleepy.
So now you're not poisoned anymore, and most of your blood levels have returned to normal.
Yes, they've returned to normal. It was about a day later they returned to normal.
Have they installed a carbon monoxide detector?
Yes, there are carbon monoxide detectors all over the place at work.
I'm glad they did the bare minimum there.
Yeah. I legitimately did not realize anything was wrong until it was at a point where...
Until your girlfriend told you to go to the hospital.
Well, no, because if that had happened in my house, I legitimately would have just thought that I was coming down with something and I would have went to bed and died in my sleep.
Right, that's actually the real danger of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Short PSA, get a fucking carbon monoxide detector, because that shit's scary. Unless you're a shitty person and then don't get a carbon monoxide detector, and also
Love that.
blow out the pilot light on your stove.
In case you want to kill your family, this is an easy way to do it.
Shit.
I wasn't too sure about your girlfriend, but now that she's kept you from dying, maybe she's okay.
Well, and a couple months back, she had a medical problem and was in the hospital. And we were joking about how instead of trying to break up with me, she just tried to die. And then so now this time when this happened, she was like, "You're not allowed to die. If you want to break up with me, you have to break up with me. You can't die to get out of it."
How many different...
I tell the same joke with my wife. I'm like, you're not allowed to die till I get to die. It was just morbid humor. It's fine.
ways are you going to try and kill yourself before you admit you're unhappy with this relationship?
I'm very happy in this relationship.
Then stop trying to kill yourself with carbon monoxide.
Cue next week where I slam my car into a tree. It had probably been like 2 hours when I hadn't used my e-cigarette because I felt like crap. On the drive home, I was like, I just need a little bit of nicotine. Took one drag off it, and I was just like,
that's actually like peak. That's actually just peak veteran behavior right there. Being like, you know what'll cure what's clearly a dangerous poisoning in my lungs? A hit of an e-cig. Like, truly, the army runs entirely. Garrison Army runs on e-cigarettes, regular cigarettes, dip, and Monster energy drinks. And if you're an officer, coffee. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that doesn't make sense, Paul, because enlisted people make less money, but Monsters are like $4 a pop, whereas like coffee is like 99 cents at the 7-Eleven. You are absolutely correct, and cheaper if you make it at home, which you're like, Paul, but a Keurig pod is like 25 cents, and that's the most wasteful coffee you can make at home. You're absolutely correct about all of these things. It's just, there's something about being a 19-year-old private that Monster Energy just speaks to you, right? Coffee just looks like coffee, but Monster Energy, it's black. It's got that edgy M on it. Looks like it should be drag racing like other energy drinks, like down a dirt road. Like Monster looks like it's the energy drink that goes mudding. And coffee looks like the energy drink that goes to work. That's it.
Oh, that was a mistake! Why did I do that? There's no oxygen!
Oh, this is what all those warnings are about!
Sometimes I'm not smart.
You know what's great for all this poison? Water in my lungs!
Yeah. Sometimes I'm not smart.
Ah!
What the hell?
Yes? Did you injure yourself on the chair?
I hit myself in the testicles!
I love that they did this bit over him lying on the ground writhing in pain. This is great. This is peak content. And there's his friend just looking, Mike, just deadpan. The dead expressions are the best. They enhance this.
I have to ask, why did you hit yourself in the testicles?
I didn't mean to!
Is that your new fetish? That's the only reason I can think of.
Fuck you! Oh my god! Ow! Ow!
Give you a moment to recover from that.
I want my Woobie!
Your what?
I want my Woobie!
Your whoopee? As in a whoopee
Oh, God. I forgot. Not everyone knows what the Woobie is.
cushion?
No, poncho liner!
What the hell is wrong with you?
Oh!
Why do you need a poncho liner?
I mean, I hope he explains it. If he breaks it down, then I'll share a story.
For a swollen testicle.
Oh!
Well, I'm waiting for an answer. Why do you need a whoopee?
No, Woobie!
What are you talking about?
The poncho liner, the military blanket thingy.
I've never heard that before.
And that's like one of the only things that soldiers kept when they get out of the military is their Woobie.
You still haven't answered how a poncho liner makes you feel better.
Because it's a blankie.
Okay, wow, he didn't explain this at all. In the military, right, as we've discussed, the military is known for having some pretty garbage-ass gear. Right? If you've been in the military, you know military grade means trash, means lowest bidder. But sometimes even a broken clock is right twice a day, right? The one way they were right was the A-10 Warthog, which is just a badass tank-killing monster of a platform. The other way they were right is the Woobie. And I actually argue that the poncho itself, the old school poncho that they've since done away with because, you know, well-designed stuff is anathema to the military. But the idea of the poncho liner, the military has these waterproof ponchos with hoods, and you can just tie off the hood and you can form it into a shelter. It's actually pretty great. It's like a tough rubberized canvas. And because it's a poncho, you can drape it literally over your entire rucksack and yourself and stay dry. But the military, in their infinite wisdom, was like, hey, sometimes people actually sleep wrapped in their ponchos, right? Especially if it's like some light rain and they're sleeping outdoors. So we want to give them the ability to be warmer within their poncho. And so they created the poncho liner. Poncho liner is a sort of thin nylon blanket that is quick drying, also in camouflage pattern, and it's just nice and big, and you can just wrap yourself up in it and be warm. And it is a game changer. It's a core component of what used to be called the Ranger roll, which is your poncho liner, a Woobie, or a poncho liner, and something else that isn't a sleeping bag, like a wool military blanket. And that used to be the Army's unofficial mid-level sleeping bag. But the poncho liner or the Woobie is something that just always comes out because it's always offers soldiers utility. If you're sitting in a vehicle freezing your ass off, you just wrap yourself in your Woobie. It's big enough, right? But it's not so big and bulky that it's hard to carry, and it'll just warm you up a little bit, right? If you have a cold spot, on a mattress, you can just stuff your Woobie in there. You can even roll it up and use it as a pillow. It's just one of those things that every time you take it out, it delivers utility, and it's awesome. And as he discussed, because it's something that like touches your body like a uniform does, the military doesn't want it back. Don't ask me why that's the rule, but that's just how it is.
When I was in basic training, I had to give a short class on how to use a washer and dryer.
You guys had washers and dryers? You didn't have to hand wash your stuff?
Oh, like you did.
You were so spoiled.
Like you had to hand wash your clothing.
Yeah.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
Second month of training, yeah, we did.
Don't lie.
It's the truth. You had to wash your own clothes in the big old basins they had.
Okay, honestly, being able to hand wash your clothes in a sink is actually a skill, like a life skill that I think everyone should have.
They didn't give us a washboard, so I didn't get very clean.
I have had to do it several times in my life, actually. Never in the military, weirdly enough.
I think you're lying.
Nope, it's true.
So I went into the bathrooms, and I started doing a load of laundry, and the guy next to me was paying a little bit too much attention. And I was like, what do you want? And he goes, how do you do that? The hell are you talking about? He's like, how do I make this go? Have you never done your own laundry before? He's like, no. And he was like 21.
I mean, guys, I'm going to tell you this. Okay. In, like, my parents' generation and before, the idea was that you as a man would leave your parents' house and live with your spouse, who would perform all domestic duties. And if you're like, that's the most sexist nonsense I've ever heard and unrealistic, right? You're absolutely correct. But as a result of that, programming, my mom never saw any need to impart any life skills onto her male children, of which she had three male children. So, problematic there. So that meant that when I went to college, I had no idea how to cook anything. I had no idea how to wash my own clothes. I had no idea how to clean. I knew how to clean up after myself because my dad showed me that, and my grandfather, basically because I was responsible for all cleaning at their business. So if they wanted something cleaned, they had to show me the right way to do it, and I could do it. Obviously, they didn't give a shit whether I personally was clean. But the difference between this guy and Zach is that I kind of figured out the process. I was like, what kind of clothes? I mean, they make it easy, right? When you're a freshman in college, you stick your clothes in the washer because it washes first, then it dries. And the washer's like temperature of water and type of load. And because it was operated by quarters, because it wasn't enough that we paid the colleges $30,000 a year or whatever it was, or the taxpayer did. Thanks, U.S. Army. Because that wasn't enough, then I was like, what is the cheapest setting so that I don't have to pay the college even more money for the privilege of not spreading filth and disease in their dorms? And so I would be like, cold. And here's the thing, other than my workout clothes, which I would do warm, right? You just throw it in and you just run it, right? Oh, obviously put in detergent, but it's not that hard. And I think it was actually like warm was the cheapest setting. But I was like warm, hit start, and then you just put it in the dryer until it's done for an hour. And you just sit there and study. But the point is, I had to figure out everything. I had to download recipes online, print them out on the school's computer, and I would hang them on my fridge. And I would just do them again and again until I figured out how to make them taste good. I figured out a baller orange chicken recipe that I've never been able to recreate. But yeah, I was given no skills. But you know what skill I was given that was the most important? And I think, whenever I have children, right, that I want to give them the ability to figure shit out. Right? The ability to look at something and be like, I may not know how to do laundry, but with a little bit of looking around and a little bit of finagling, I can figure this out. I don't know how to cook, but if I watch some videos and read some directions and take my time, I'll figure it out. And I only lit my kitchen on fire one time.
Never done your own laundry before. You throw all your laundry in here, you put it on cold, you dump some laundry detergent into it, and you hit run. Yep. And then
you put it on cold.
Close the lid. Mm-hmm. Or if you're really bored, you shove a fork into the little switch and you watch the laundry go around in circles.
I've never thought about doing that.
I showed one person how to do it, and then he told a bunch of other people that I knew how to do laundry. So then my drill sergeant was like, show all these idiots how to do laundry. I was like, okie dokie. So I had to.
I mean, this is one of the reasons, honestly, I believe that for a young single guy, whether fresh out of college or like not college bound or before college, the military is a great place to end up, because you think these skills are stupid, but you have to think almost every person in America is leaving home with some sort of skill deficit, whether it's how to talk to the pay personnel person who screwed up your paycheck again without, murdering them, how to follow directions, how to ask for clarification, how to do laundry, how to fix yourself, even things like how to do proper grooming and how often to get a haircut. These are things that you'd be shocked that some people don't understand. Even things like how should your clothes fit, right? The Army has regulations that say, listen, don't show up with a PT shirt with the sleeves down to here. It's a t-shirt. It should fit between shoulder and elbow, right? You laugh. Just look around next time. See how many dudes are out there rocking past the elbow t-shirts.
Just show everyone
Army wouldn't let them get away with that stuff.
how to do a load of laundry.
No, in Marine basic training, we just hand washed everything.
That is stupid.
We didn't have washers and dryers.
That is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life.
You spoiled little Army brats.
Wow, the Marines really are stupid. No wonder you guys eat crap.
Yeah, it's because the washing machines are actually too complex for Marines. As we've seen, they were just at the appropriate level for the Army. Barely. They were just over the line for being too complicated. Marines, no chance. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this lengthy dive into another Mike Burnfire story. I got to get out of here, but I will see you in the next one. Definitely be sure to hit subscribe and check out the podcast where I have my own campfire style stories, right? Obviously, I don't want to steal their term for it. I'm not actually around a campfire, but I got to tell the algorithm that this is the content I'm making. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Check it out.